So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunday morning meditation coming to you from Vajrayana Institute. I'm just adjusting my screen a little bit so you can see Shanti Deva. Okay. I hope everyone's well and safe and happy. As usual, let's begin with some meditation just to calm the body and get rid of any tension. So make sure you're comfortable, whether you're sitting on a chair or on a cushion on the floor. Just check that your spine is straight. And we're going to do a body scan so that we can release any tension that we're holding in the body. So as we do this, just breathe normally and naturally. And don't get uptight about letting go of your tension. So bring your awareness to the top of your head. And then move down to the forehead. Just relaxing. Be aware of your temples. Your eyebrows. Relaxing all those muscles around the eyes. And relaxing the eyes themselves. Soft, very gentle gaze, or you can have your eyes closed. Later on, when we move into the breathing meditation, it's good to have your eyelids lowered, but your eyes slightly open so that there's some light coming in, which counters our tendency to fall asleep if we shut our eyes. Moving down over the cheekbones, just relaxing all the muscles in the face. Muscles around the mouth. Relaxing your jaw. Resting the tongue lightly behind the top teeth. Relaxing the throat. Having a sense that the face is now completely relaxed, still, at peace. And gently returning to the top of the head and traveling down the back of the head to the base of the skull. Relaxing the neck. Remember breathing naturally. And any time you notice little spots of tension, imagine that with the out breath, that tension leaves the body and just dissolves. Relaxing the shoulders If you like, you can lift your shoulders up and drop them 3 times. That really helps to let go of the tension in the shoulders. Allow gravity to help. Relax the shoulder blades. Follow the spine all the way from the base of the skull all the way down to the tailbone. And be aware of the contact with the cushion or the chair. Feel the strength and stability of the spine. Just gently releasing any tension wherever you come across it. And moving to the front of the body, relaxing the upper area of the chest. Sense of spaciousness, openness. You can help this by having your shoulders slightly back. So if we're hunched over, we close in. Shoulders slightly back. So the chest feels open and spacious, relaxed. Relax the diaphragm and the belly. Completely at ease. Come back to the tops of the shoulders. Travel down the upper arms to the elbows, down to the wrists, backs of the hands, palms of the hands, and fingers, relaxing all the way to the fingertips. And bringing the awareness to the hips, traveling from the hip bone down through the thighs to the knees. The knees down through the calves, relaxing those calf muscles, ankles, heels, top of the feet, soles of the feet, relaxing all the way to the tips of your toes. Letting go. relaxing. Now take in the whole body. Be aware of the whole body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Still, peaceful, safe, supported. Just for a few moments, sit and enjoy the feeling of the body completely at ease. No tension anywhere. Breathing normally and naturally. The body at ease. So now, from this space of relaxation and serenity, let's take a little time to set a very positive motivation for being here this morning. Opening our hearts to all living beings who, just like ourselves, want to be happy and never want to suffer. So let's think that we're doing this session this morning not only for ourselves, but for all other living beings. And rejoice, that we're able to do this. How wonderful. So adjusting it and making sure your posture is correct for your meditation. We're going to move into the breathing meditation. And if you can, practice, having your eyes slightly open. If you're not used to this, it may feel quite strange, but the whole purpose is to counter the tendency to fall asleep, which happens very easily when we shut our eyes. So, just for little short periods until you get used to it. Try that. Just, you have your eyelids lowered, but your eyes are not completely closed. So during the breathing meditation, our only task is to bring the awareness to the breath, and every time the mind wanders, you notice that has happened, and you immediately, without judgment, without criticism, without beating yourself up, you immediately bring the awareness back to the breath. So the analogy often given is that the breath is like a horse and the awareness is the rider. So we don't want to fall off the horse. And our only task is to be aware of the breath. if possible, the whole of the in-breath and the whole of the out-breath. Focusing either at the nostrils, being aware of the breath entering and leaving the nostrils, or you shouldn't do both, it will become very confusing, focusing on the rise and fall of the abdomen. So, off we go. Remember the 3 important points for shamatha. The body needs to be relaxed, still, and the mind needs to be vigilant, alert, noticing the instant that the mind wanders. You can think of it as RSVP. Relaxed, still, vigilant, practice. Although we should be as still as possible, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't adjust our posture. If we notice that perhaps we've slumped forward a bit, or our shoulders are starting to creep up, or we're leaning a bit to one side. So if you notice any of those things, gently adjust your posture. And obviously we shouldn't stop for a drink in the middle of our shamatha meditation. And when your mind wanders, be firm but not harsh. Just bring the mind back. Thoughts, sounds, feelings, none of these things are a problem. The only problem is failing to notice that they carry us away. And that will happen from time to time, and that's okay too. Remember, we're practicing. We're not perfect. So thoughts come up, don't follow them. Don't push them away. Sounds arise, don't start thinking about them. Your knee is itching, don't scratch it. Just notice and bring the awareness back to the breath. Nothing else to do. breath and the awareness, no separation. So have a little stretch. Now you can have a sip of your drink. So now for the analytical meditation. We have a class on Wednesday mornings on Zoom, and we've been exploring the Buddhist teachings on emptiness, which doesn't mean nothingness. It's talking about how things exist. And a quote came up from one of my teachers, which is relevant to this topic. And it goes like this: this whole idea of I, me, and mine is not real. And there's this beautiful picture of a bubble. It can be useful, but it is not true. Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo. So in that vein, I'm going to have a look at a meditation on the faulty logic of I, capital I, not this I. Because it kind of fits in nicely. And I'm going to begin with a quote from Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, which goes like this. Of course, the bird we see and hear exists. It exists, but what I mean by that may not be exactly what you mean. You know, so this is a great Roshi, a great meditator. And I find that quote very interesting. So Western culture does not generally question the substantial nature of the self. The self seems self-evident, as it were, and inarguable. We may find it absurd when someone suggests that perhaps the self doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not true. As Jetsuma said, it can be useful, this whole idea of I, me, and mine, but it's not true. So, there are trees, there are birds, there are people, and there is me. Buddhism is not disputing the basic reality of the existence of different objects or beings, but there is more subtlety to this question than we may at first realize. In fact, significant problems arise if we take at face value the existence of I as suggested by our culture. So let us explore what we mean when we use the word I. Suppose I were to ask, how old are you? And you might answer promptly, you know, I'm 37 or whatever. And then let me ask, what colour are your eyes? And again, the answer comes very easily. My eyes are blue or brown or green. The answers arise naturally and immediately. But if we look at each of these responses in detail, we discover something odd. If you say, I'm 37, you really mean this body is 37 years old, don't you? You don't necessarily mean that all of you is 37. Are your thoughts that old? And what is the age of the mood you're feeling right now? Perhaps it came on today or an hour ago. So when we say, I'm 37, I is taken to mean the body, to be the body. This tendency to equate oneself with an aspect of our experience is called identification. And in this case, identification with the body. Now, when you say, my eyes are blue, now the eye is not the body, eyes, but the owner of the body. My eyes. Interesting, isn't it? My eyes are blue. So here the eye is not the body, which would be eyes, but the owner of the body. My eyes. So I, as owner, is a different form of identification. Feel into this sense of I as the owner of the body. Because we do say, it's my body. And inquire, where is that owner located? Are you able to pin down an owner? Is the owner inside the body or outside? Is the owner all of the space inside? These are some of the questions the Buddha pointed to 2,600 years ago. Which are you really? The body? Or something separate that somehow owns the body? These are two different things. Is it possible to be both? We can find the same confusion around the mind. If you say, I am happy, you are equating I with happiness, an emotion or a state of mind. Yet a minute later, you might talk about my joys and my sorrows. We do, don't we? My joys, my sorrows. Now you are the owner of the emotions. These are two more ways to self-identify. Are you the emotion? Or are you its owner? And can you be both? There is one more place that the I lays claim. I is sometimes felt as the observer of the whole show. It can feel as though there's a small entity located inside the head, just behind the eyes. And this being is the center of everything. It watches sights, it hears sounds, it smells odors, it thinks thoughts, and it feels emotions. And this I seems to stay the same over time through many changing experiences. It appears to accomplish this by remaining separate from what is observed. It feels as though this observing I was with us in primary school and is here today, and it will be just behind our eyes until we die. The identification here as the observer is, in reality, taking as I the activity of consciousness, the faculty of mind that receives or knows the sense impressions that arise moment after moment. Consciousness may feel like a permanent, stable aspect of our experience, but the Buddha said that consciousness arises and passes with each new sense impression, and that we can verify this through meditative insight. This type of identification is perhaps the most difficult to see through. For now, we'll simply note it as another way the I is equated with an aspect of experience. So we've now found 5 meanings for I. I as the body, I as the owner of the body, I as the emotions, I as the owner of the emotions, and I as the observer. So which are you, really? You might reply, I'm all of them. I'm my body, and it belongs to me. I'm my thoughts and feelings, and they belong to me. And I'm something apart from them, watching it all. I'm everything you've said, all wrapped up in one. So we've now arrived at the conventional understanding of the self. In this culture, when we talk about what I am, it's this whole package. This is what we mean by a person, and that's what we mean by I. But we've now arrived at a place where, upon looking closely, the absurdity of conventional understanding becomes apparent. How many selves are you? Are you a self as the organ of your liver and also as the emotion of compassion? Are these the same I or different? Are you a self as your political view and also as the consciousness that hears a bird call? Are these the same I or different? Are you a self who is changing every moment as the body does with its pulses and respiration and digestion? Or are you an ongoing self who is a stable observer of these changes? Are these the same I or different? When we look into these questions, what we find are little more than collisions, if you like, of unexamined language habits around I and my. Apparently there was a famous comment by Ludwig Wittgenstein where he said the self is only a shadow cast by grammar. We have found these terms useful to distinguish one person from another in social dialogue and to establish social guidelines around possessions. But by not examining the terms closely, we have stretched the idea of self so far that it does not actually make sense. So I leave you to think about these points. And might be you'll be inspired to look deeper, because we're not saying that we don't exist. But we definitely don't exist the way that we think we do. To finish off with the quote from Jetsunma, this whole idea of I, me, and mine is not real. It can be useful, but it is not true. So relatively we exist, but when we look deeper, we cannot find this I. Therefore it's not true. This is Buddhist terminology, but we have to start somewhere. So let's finish off by dedicating the positive energy that we've created by, joining the meditation this morning. Let's dedicate that positive energy to all beings on the planet with a very sincere wish that all beings everywhere may be well and happy and free of suffering, and that they may come to understand the reality of how everything exists. And have a look at our online program. There's a few things still happening. On Tuesday evening, we're having the first session of question and answers. That will be on Zoom at 6 o'clock, and it will be every second Tuesday. So if you've got questions, feel free to join in. And the topic for the coming Tuesday is karma. So you can get your questions ready, and hopefully we'll have a nice discussion on this topic. So please enjoy the rest of your day. Be well, be happy, stay safe. Thank you very much for joining me.